Since downgrading to just one car, Paige and I have found multiple occasions where we felt like we needed some other form of transport without having to go out and buy another car. And I think we may have just found the answer. So as you guys know, I'm not a professional bike reviewer. I'm just a normal dude looking for a form of transport to get me to and from the shops and also go for some joy rides out in the forest here. So this video is just going to focus on what I've liked over the last few weeks using this bike and if I'd recommend it and the pros and the cons. And I'm not going to get too much into the detail because it's just whether or not this is a good one and whether it's good for you. So let's get stuck into it. So this bike is from a brand called Engwe. They've just launched into the Australian market. This is the EP2 PRO. So it does come with some pretty awesome features, but probably the standout is just the way that it looks. You get these nice fat chunky tires, you get some pretty decent suspension, and you get a massive battery that provides a fair amount of power. You do have a throttle on this bike, so you can actually use that independently of pedaling. The bike is also foldable, so it makes it relatively easy when it comes to storing it or putting it in the car. I would say though that it is quite heavy and awkward once it is folded, so you're probably going to find that you need assistance to lift it or move it anywhere. It also has this rear storage rack at the back, which is going to be super helpful for when we take this bike into town and pick up a bunch of groceries. And it's also quite versatile. Like I can see us loading up with some firewood and strapping all sorts of things to the back of this bike when we need to. Keep in mind that the max payload for this bike is 150 kilos. So technically, Paige and I could both go on this bike if we turned this into a seat. There might even be an accessory you can buy. I feel like you'd need somewhere to put your feet, and yeah, feels a little bit dangerous. Some other notable features are that it has front and rear mechanical disc brakes, which work pretty well. It also has some pretty decent front and rear lights. The seat is super comfortable, so there's no complaints there. And I wanted to point out that these mud guards have already come in handy when we've been riding through the forest on wet days. You can see the mud that's already started to build up there and protected us from getting saturated. When it comes to riding the bike, the first thing you'll notice after you take a few pedals is that electric motor start to kick in. Whoa! You can then start to amp up your speed. Now there are 5 different speed settings on this bike. Number 5 bringing you the most amount of power from that 750 watt motor, and then 0 being no assistance at all. Now the speed is restricted to 25 kilometers per hour here in Australia just because of e-bike regulations, which is a little bit annoying, but at the same time, it's still quick and we haven't really felt the need to go much faster than that. And I must say that when you are on max power and you take a few pedals, you definitely want to hold on because it's quick. The bike doesn't seem to struggle much going up hills. This is me using just the throttle on our driveway in max power mode. You'll also notice pretty early on just the difference that these big 20-inch tires make and the grip that they provide you. Now it does have a removable battery, so you can either charge it while it's in the bike or you can remove it and bring it inside if that's easier. It also has a locking mechanism to make sure that nobody else can take your battery, which means this bike does require keys to operate it, and you do have to leave the key in while you're riding. I'm not entirely sure how this bike would go in the city, but for us in the country and where we're located, this is absolutely the bike that we need. And I know that there's so much more I could talk about with this bike, like doing real world range testing and going out in wet weather and seeing how it performs, but I'm going to leave that to the bike experts. For me, at the end of the day, I've been super happy with this bike. Now I probably just have to get a second one so Paige can come on rides as well.